Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Grid Live, brought to you by Kelby Media Group. And I am joined here today by the wonderful, the awesome, the talented. Wait, where'd he go? No, I'm here. I'm joined today by the wonderful, she is wonderful, Miss Tamara Lackey.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? Fist bump? We didn't even rehearse that.
I know, it was totally just off the cuff. So Tamara Lackey is, if you don't know her already, which everybody knows Tamara, but if you don't know Tamara, Tamara is a family children's photographer, portrait photographer, basically.
Yes.
Of all sorts, based out of, is it North Carolina?
Sure, let's say that.
All right. Or South Carolina?
Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And we have her here doing a Kelby training class, and as you know, anytime anybody comes by the studio, dragged in, screaming to do a Grid Live with us. So Scott couldn't be here today. He had a seminar, a sold out seminar yesterday in San Diego. So it's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
So he had a seminar in San Diego, and I think he caught the red eye back, and
he was crying. He was crying when I talked to him. He was so tired.
It was. So, but anyway, so Scott can't join us today, but I have you as my co-host.
I know, right?
Ready?
Yes.
All right. So a couple of things we have to do here. First off, we have a couple of prizes that we will give away toward the end of the show. We have a DVD, Scott's DVD called Crush the Composition. There we go. And then we also have, here, I'll let you hold that one. How to Get People to Do Stuff, which is actually a cool little book. Master the Art and Science of Persuasion and Motivation, which every photographer definitely needs. So
Amen.
We will give those away toward the end of the show. But our topic for today.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
I don't even know. I thought we were going to solve all the world's problems. That's what I thought.
We're going to try to solve all the world's problems, but in starting to solve all the world's problems, I was talking to Tamara before the show, and I was like, a lot of things that I think Tamara does really well, and things that you see all the time. Posing was one of them, and just overall tips and tricks and things like that on photographing families. But posing is a big one, and we get so many questions on posing because I think it's one of those things that does not come natural to people. Right, that's true.
Whether it means actually posing your body or posing another person's body.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about those things. If you guys, this all happens by you guys joining the conversation. So if you're watching the TV show live on the website, you can always join in on the live blog there and send in questions, or you can use #TheGridLive on Twitter, and I think we have somebody standing back here actually ready to grab those questions.
I see her. That's actually a real thing.
I think she's tweeting right now, actually.
Yes, that's real time.
So anyway, we're going to take a very quick break, folks, and when we get back, we'll jump into. You've got a couple of.
I have so
you're
much.
You're kicking it off with posing tips for us.
So much to give.
So one posing tip.
Like 5.
Wow, 5 posing tips straight from Tamara. So we'll be right back here in just a minute.
When I'm photographing kids, I have some idea of what I want to get. I'm effectively trying to capture the whole of who they are as best I can in the short amount of time I have. I want to teach you to see more than where a child fits in a frame, but what's going on underneath in terms of what's going on in their head, what's going on with their emotions, what's coming next. Hi, I'm Tamara Lackey, and I'd like to invite you to check out my course on kelbytraining.com.
Well, hey, we are back live on the grid with Miss Tamara Lackey, photographer extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire.
Before we jump into it, so I guess can you tell us a little bit about you, but a little bit about you, your business, kind of how it got started and where it's at now.
Yeah, so we photograph portraits, commercial, and editorial work. And from a portrait perspective, tend to very much specialize in children and families, that kind of whole category. But interestingly enough, a lot of the commercial and editorial work I do are the grown-up people.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing how they listen to you. I love that. Like you say things like a little bit to the left, and they do that.
They actually do it?
It's fantastic.
Don't stand there frozen.
No, they do not. And associate-based business, so I have several photographers who shoot with me, as well as a full-time studio manager who is fantastic at keeping everything running and humming while I jump around places. And I think it's been 11 years almost of full-time professional studio, and it's going really well, very well.
Now, do people, because you said you have other photographers that are shooting for your business.
Yes.
Do people call up and, like, how do you figure out who's going to go where? Do people call up and specifically request you? Do they specifically request somebody?
Sometimes they say, can I get anybody but Tamara?
I can understand that.
Yeah. Specifically, they'll call in and book a portrait session. And then if you've been to our website, if you go to tamaralackey.com, you'll see my gallery as well as the galleries of our other shooters. And so you'll get a good feel. And sometimes people call in specifically to book me. And other times they'll say, I was on the website and we're looking to do, perhaps it's a newborn shoot. Mm-hmm. I don't actually specialize in newborn photography, but one of my associates does. And she's got a lot of that work on there, so it'd make perfect sense for them to work with them. I know.
That's a tough one.
Why do you think it's tough?
I mean, it's all unpredictable, but I would assume newborns are even more unpredictable. And not only is it unpredictable, but I think you've got so much more emotion there because it's like, don't hurt the baby. Everything, newborns are, whether they are delicate or not, everybody's like, oh my God, don't touch the baby. Don't hurt the baby.
They actually are.
Really? I would not know this. But I would assume that there's a lot more emotion tied to some of those photos.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually think newborns, it's just a whole different kind of work. There's not a lot of energy exchange when you're photographing newborns, whereas with, I think toddlers are the most unpredictable of all.
Yeah, that's true.
In that category of that realm. But so newborn work is very similar to posing really great products. With a lot of love and passion and heart, but it's not as dynamic of an exchange. It's more very artful posing and very good photography and kind of a calm, patient demeanor. It's just it's a different deal altogether. I think sometimes people lump in newborn photography, baby photography, toddler, children. It is not the same thing. It's very different.
And you made a really good point in that there's not a lot of going back and forth.
No.
Smile.
How's your day? How's your day? Nothing like that.
And so I have to tell a story. I've probably only photographed one or two newborns, aside from my own kids, but for other people. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's just luck of the draw. I don't know how many times it happens, but they were both cross-eyed. And it's like
the newborns?
Yeah, well, not newborn, but I mean within a month or two old, and they were both.
Well, you're still gaining eye
strength. I know,
yeah.
and it's like as a photographer, we see that, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should fix it, try to fix it in post, or the parents like, oh, so cute, and I'm like, the eyes are looking at me.
But it's so cute, though. It's
I know,
so cute.
It is cute.
All of that is just perfect then.
All right, so we got somebody that does newborn, so you kind of split up the work, I guess.
Well, not specifically. It's not like we go out and find for a certain. It's kind of if somebody is talented and they're great to work with and they're dependable and responsible. It is a combination of that because when you're running your own studio, those other skills are really important. That there's somebody that's easy to work with and for not only you but for your clients, and then also of course shoots great work. So it's a little bit more of a difficult package to find as an associate photographer than one might think. It's not just like they take great photographs. There's a lot more that goes into it. Exactly. But so we certainly don't have a situation where it's people call and they either want me or nothing. Most of the time they see the other person's work and they get really excited and then they have a great experience working with them and that's that. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we're actually getting some questions in here.
What?
I know, crazy. Tamara, so let's see here. Tamara, what do you think is the biggest mistake people make in posing their subject?
Well, it depends on the subject. So specifically children, do we think?
Yeah, let's go with children.
Considering I wrote a posing playbook about it.
I'd say you're good at it.
I'd say, yeah, no, biggest mistake. I would say probably first and foremost, having an expectation of how things are going to go. Mm-hmm. Like, I think if you go in with some sort of game plan of you want this look and that look and all that sort of stuff, that's just inviting chaos and disappointment and heartbreak. It's not going to happen like that. I think having some sort of a light box of ideas, so, a collection of things that you want to go for, that's one thing. But you need to be extremely open to the fact that we'll start with something, it'll naturally evolve to something else, and the shot you get may be much better than even expected from a posing perspective, but it's not what you started with. It's not kind of what you planned on. First and foremost, another really common mistake I see when people aren't that familiar with posing children is they pose them like adults. And that doesn't work at all. Like
put your chin forward.
Not just the directions and the instructions, but literally the arms are a very different length.
Yeah.
The legs are a different length. The way they hold themselves, they'll put them in a stool and say lean forward like that. And you're not going far enough. You go any farther, they're going to fall down on their head. So realizing it's a whole different body type that you're working with, and they bend in different ways, and they don't remain a certain way. You can't pose and then they say stay and then expect to have a natural expression. Mm-hmm. So it's very quick kind of shooting that way.
So it's almost, I think, and going back to this question, it almost sounds like some of the biggest mistakes are just trying to assume that it's the same type of posing. Yeah,
because it's not. It's very different. I think the other big thing, too, mistake I see when I watch people photograph children, especially if they don't photograph children frequently, is showing fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't show them. A lot of people get surprisingly nervous around children, which is so interesting, right? But by showing that, and what I mean by that is twofold. One, by expressing nerves and doubts and kind of getting a little unsure of yourself. And one of the things children are looking for from you is to be effortless.
Reassurance.
Effortless. This doesn't work. This is play, and this is open. If you get very kind of stressed out and nervous, and that just comes across really poorly, you don't get the results you want in terms of interaction with children. The second factor there is trying to rationalize things with children. If you just sit there, I will light it, and then we'll get that's not going to work, In fact, the opposite of that works out really well by being very non-rational, by being extraordinarily silly and over the top, and not necessarily being a clown, but certainly saying and doing things that are so off the mark that they know that they're going with it too, and then you engage them in a way that is, that allows you, again, the key is when you're engaging them, then you can physically move them into pretzel positions or whatever you want. But you have to keep their mind and their focus and their interaction and their attention before you can get the poses and looks and feels you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the nervous thing, because I think I've seen that before. I've seen photographers do, weddings or whatever it happens to be that have kids.
Right.
In fact, I was in a wedding a few weeks ago. And I kind of saw.
You told me about that.
Yeah. But I kind of saw that. I kind of saw the photographer, and there was kids there, and the photographer was getting very nervous and expressing that to the adults.
Right.
And you don't realize the kids are listening to all of this.
Yeah, kids smell fear. And
Yeah.
it's really obvious. And if they do, they don't understand why. What are you afraid of? It doesn't even make sense to them. So that makes you stranger, and they're even more uncomfortable with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. So, question for Tamara. This one's by Scott. Judging from your Kelby training videos, what is the most used ISO with just reflectors and going handheld? So I'm going to guess, natural light.
No, just out of curiosity, are you having a hard time reading that, or are you just a slow reader? Or are you thinking about the question as you go? I'm just curious.
I guess I'm just a slow reader. Sorry. I might be having a hard time reading. You know what happened? I turned 40.
And then
as soon as I turned 40,
judging.
It's I turned 40, and as soon as I turned 40, my eyesight just...
what I heard about you when you turned 40 at Photoshop World was that, according to Melissa, you just became more devastatingly handsome. Isn't that what you told me that you heard?
I liked Melissa. She gave me the best introduction ever. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Go ahead, repeat it. Everyone wants to hear it.
No. I'm not doing it. You just said it, so. But anyway, yeah, it's...
He's told me it about 4 times.
But when I turned 40, I went to the eye doctor, and my eyes had changed, and I got new contact lenses 6 or 8 weeks ago. And I can't see out of my left eye.
Can't see your left eye?
Everything's blurry. It's like I got to go get a whole new prescription again.
Yeah, because the photography thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks. Anyway, all right, it's nice and big now. Question for Tama.
It's so funny they made it bigger.
Judging from her Kelby training videos, what is the most used ISO with just reflectors and going handheld? Tamara.
With my Nikon gear, I typically start at 200, ISO 200 for outside sort of stuff. I mean, anything pretty much in regular daylight, I'm starting with ISO 200, and depending on the action, how fast moving things are going, I'm bumping it up as I go, because I want to keep my shutter speed high enough to be able to get the action as it's going. And if I can hold off on additive light by just using a reflector, then my go-to thing is to pump up the ISO, because I have a lot of room to move before I have any sort of digital noise or issues at all. So I'll start around 200 and then I'll bump it up as needed. I try not to go over maybe 2000 ISO if I don't need to, because I don't want to have to do extra post on that.
Yeah.
And I'm in good range.
We always joke around here. I just turn ISO off.
You turn it off?
Yeah, just don't even use it. Why even bother with it? It's just such a... No. So I'm gonna.
I don't know about that function.
Yeah, just turn it off.
You
don't have to worry about it.
It's
great. But I'm gonna just kind of piggyback on his question. So do you have a general shutter speed that you're looking for? So you're in. I'm gonna assume you're in aperture priority, or
I shoot everything in manual, 100%.
So manual mode, f2.8.
Okay.
Let's say you're shooting. You got your lens on f2.8.
Sure.
And you're gonna bump up your ISO until you hit generally what shutter speed?
I don't want to go. My ISO?
You're gonna bump your ISO up until you hit around what shutter speed?
Well, it entirely depends on the lighting of the situation.
But I mean,
and the action of my subjects.
Okay, so
give me a scenario.
So you got wife and husband and 2 kids sitting right there.
Okay,
and
we're on a daylight.
Yeah, it's late afternoon, starting to get a little darker out.
Yep. If they're not moving and they're kind of staying stable, and I'm shooting them at 2.8, which means I'm pretty far back because they're a big group. I'm shooting far back. They're at 2.8. I'm at an ISO of 200. And the question is, what would my shutter speed be in that exact scenario?
What range are you? Because you said you bumped it up until you got your shutter speed to a certain range. What is that range?
Oh, okay. So specifically, if they're staying and they're stable, and my shutter speed's about like 1/320th or something, and I'm at a 200 ISO and a 2.8, I'm good. If I suddenly say, okay, now you guys just jump up and be ridiculous and dance, etc., I might go up to a shutter speed of 1/1000th. To make sure I'm getting them and not unintentionally blurring them, in which case my shutter speed is going to go up with me, probably to a similar level, probably to about at that same sort of ratio. I'm probably going to be at 1000 ISO, based again on the lighting around me, and if I'm adding flash or whatever the case may be. But given all that, it's going to keep in relationship to how sharp I want them to be, based on how fast I need to click them.
Okay.
So and it's a dance. It really is. So in a normal, like one of the videos we just did was photographing toddlers. And it was, high-spirited, quickly changing moods, quickly changing locations, certain on her head, suddenly on her feet, and as it's going, we're inside, we're outside, we're fast-moving, we're sitting quietly. It really is, if you were to check the metadata on all those files, they're all different.
It'd be all over
every
the
single
place.
image, yeah.
Yeah, especially when you throw movement in there.
When you throw movement in there, I'm also making sure I have an extended field of focus. So the same subject that I'm shooting at a 2.8 now, I'm going to be at a 4.5 or probably never more than a f7 or so. But depending on that situation, it's going to shift. Yeah.
What you just kind of mentioned it. I know you did a toddlers class and then you did a beach photography class, right? Yes. So photographing families on the beach.
We did hard beach and we did soft beach, which so early morning.
I don't know that. I've lived in Florida for a while. I've never heard of hard beach and soft beach.
Yeah. Well, specifically as it relates to a difficult lighting, like extreme lighting, really sharp, really harsh, not a lot of shade, super white sand, like Clearwater offers. In that sort of situation, you are dealing with extreme elements, extreme lighting. And we had a family with mom, dad, toddler boy, a little bit older than toddler, but just certainly not having any interest in sitting there and looking at the camera, and a baby. So with that configuration, it's not like you can say, okay, it's really harsh lighting, so let me put you in this one small spot and nobody will move. You have to work around that. So that's what I mean by hard beach. Like with all the elements against you, what can you do? What can you make of it? And that's what we did in the morning. And then in the late afternoon, early evening, soft beach being the time of day I would suggest you go shoot, which is lighting is on your side, and even though it may start a little sharp, we had some partly cloudy, so we could shoot out in the wide open, and then the light came out, it was kind of harsh, so we ducked behind a dune and did some shooting there, and then the light, as it started dipping and drifting, we moved over to the water, and then shot in and out and around there, and just took advantage of no matter which angle I shot from, gorgeous lighting. It actually came out really well. It came out really well. I was very happy.
I want to see it now. All right, more questions here. Tamara, what was your situation when you decided photography is something I want to do as a career? Was it a person who influenced you, an event, an experience?
I was in prison. That'd be a better answer, wouldn't it?
Was that the first or the second time?
The third incarceration.
The third stint?
It was. This was like you either make it this time or you don't leave. So
3 strikes.
I thought I got to do something. I got to find a job. No, specifically, I had just given birth to a human, and I'd done that on purpose. I was very excited, and I thought she was the most beautiful creature that ever, I'd laid eyes on in my life. And she is still a gorgeous, incredible creature. And I wanted to showcase that. I wanted to photograph her in a way that I would never forget exactly what she looked like, this little. And I pulled out the camera, and I would look at the photographs, and I'm like, these are horrible. So I wanted to get much better at photography. So I learned photography from the perspective of wanting to be able to better showcase what I loved.
Okay.
That's how I went into photography. And once I started doing that, I really, and it's not a dissimilar story from a lot of people, I started realizing, gosh, I'm actually good at this. I love it.
I like it.
The more I learn about it, the more I see how much I need to know. This photography is one of those careers that no matter what you know, there's so much more to know. And that's kind of amazing.
So can I ask, just how did you, what was that moment where you got into teaching it?
I'd been shooting about 5 years, and I was asked to, I think, speak at a small sort of thing, and that one, I ended up not being able to do that, but I remember thinking, this might be interesting. And so I spoke at my very first convention about 3 months. It never occurred to me. And I spoke at my first convention. Well, actually, I shouldn't say it never occurred to me. That's a lie. I just lied on live show.
You always do.
I lied again. No, it did occur to me the first time I was at WPPI. I remember walking in there and thinking that I would want to teach someday, but it was kind of like someday.
Yeah.
And then it started crystallizing a little bit more that I could do that. So on the very first speaking engagement I did, I went and spoke and gave this class and thought to myself, I'm going to be so nervous. This is going to be so hard. I'm going to not be able to swallow. I'm probably going to pee myself. And I got up there to speak, and although I did still pee, I got up there to speak, and I was shocked at how there were no nerves, and I felt really focused, and I felt really knowledgeable, and like all these things I'm not normally. And it was fantastic, and I loved it, and I thought I want to do more of this.
Did you prep a lot for it? Did you really prepare a lot?
I did. I prepared a lot.
That's it.
No, but I've prepared for other things and did horribly.
You're going to disagree with everything I say today, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
People always say, what's one of the, what's one of the keys to teaching? And I always say, they say they get nervous. And I'm like, you get much less nervous
when you're
really well prepared.
Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen. So,
right.
Anyway.
Well, and you can probably speak to this as well, but one thing I learned through teaching is the more you teach, the better you get. That adage of those who don't do teach.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who said that. Probably somebody who couldn't do either. Because the truth is, the more you teach, the better you get. So everything you reiterate and you go over it and you're going through theory and then you're showing practice, and the next time you're out actively doing it and there's no cameras, there's no book to write, nothing, you're like, I've got this because I've done it 100 times on paper already, and then I've delivered it, and then I've answered the questions. And,
that's a good point.
And you feel really good, and it inspires a lot of confidence in your own ability to shoot.
Cool. All right, let's see. Tamara, that's you.
Thank you. You even pronounced it correctly.
I know. It's like camera, but with a T.
Yes.
What do you do to get kids in the mood to pose, and what strategies do you have with
in the mood? Candles. I get candles. What do you do to get kids in the mood to pose, and what strategies do you have with cranky kids? Okay, so 2 separate questions. First and foremost, you are in no way making this work. This has to be the opposite of work for children. This is your work, but this is not their work. This has to be very playful. You have to use. Here's something I think that a lot of people sometimes can miss when they're photographing children specifically, is to use everything in your arsenal, which has very little to do with your equipment, and it has a lot to do with your own personage. Say that. Personage.
I'm not sure what word you're trying to say.
To do with your own personage, which is to say that it's not just, hey, come here, or look at me, or something. It's also using ridiculously strange tones and moving yourself in weird shapes and shooting from ridiculous angles that make you look stupid and have them pay attention so you get that frame you want. Using everything you have at your disposal on your personage can make a huge difference in getting kids in the mood to want to play and go along with it. So that's first. Secondly, in terms of cranky kids, do you want me to tell you that one now, or?
Well, I was gonna just jump in. Just watching your video, I watch you. I mean, you kind of get down on their level, which I mean, physically, and I don't want to say mentally, but
but yeah.
But
I don't have to really go anywhere for that.
You kind of get down on their level physically, but also you kind of get. You kind of just almost become their buddy. I've seen you get down. You're giving them their camera, and you're doing all these different things to kind of put them at ease with you, so that you're not this strange person. I've watched you do that.
Yeah, and the truth is, honestly, and I think anybody who gets really into their portrait photography specifically can attest to this. At that moment during that shoot, that is all I'm thinking about. It's all I care about. It's exactly how I feel. So it makes it very effortless, which I think goes a long way towards putting everybody at ease.
Yeah, definitely. Great point. All right, and then we'll cover the cranky kids when we get back. We got to take a very quick break, guys. We will be back here in just a minute. We are back live with Miss Tamara disagreeing Lackey. All right,
that's not true.
Yes. See, you're good. All right, so we left off. Somebody asked about cranky kids.
Yes.
So what do you do with cranky kids? Cranky pants.
I don't accept those shoots.
Yeah, it's that easy.
No, I mean, crankiness is a part of every single shoot. It really is at some level. Even the most agreeable child will have cranky moments. So it depends on what I'm going for at the time. A lot of what I like to do is show everything that's happening on the shoot and give a good collection of emotions and everything. And so part of that crankiness comes across. I actually photograph that and show it, and it's fun and it's silly. And oftentimes, especially with younger children, it's a stage that they'll grow out of. So it becomes even sweeter as time goes on. So I do capture that. The other things I do is a lot in the way of distraction, piquing curiosity, changing everything quickly.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a situation, for instance, where I'm in the home and I'm trying to do a shoot on the couch and it's not working and things are getting frustrating, I'm like, outside. And then we just go and I make a really big deal of it. I change everything, and they're just kind of swirling around, catching up. And you change their mood by changing the experience.
Yeah, because now they're not even thinking about it.
Right, now I'm like, where am I going? What am I doing?
All right, let's go.
Yeah. And that's not uncommon.
And it's funny because I noticed, just his question made me think of it too, is I noticed that it's got to be hard for you, because I watched some of the models show up yesterday for your class. And we say models, but it was one of the girls that works here, her husband and her 2 kids.
Right.
And they showed up here, and they were holding one of the little girls who was 2 or 3 years old, and she's sitting there and she's being held. Her head's in there, kind of in that, I'm sleepy, I'm cranky, I was just in the car.
Yep.
I probably just slept on the way here, and now I don't know what's going on. And I'm thinking, anytime I see a kid brought into any situation, that young,
Yes.
a lot of times that's what they look like.
That's the start.
They just got out of the car,
Yep.
they just fell asleep, and now they're thrust into this situation, and they're like, oh my God.
Yes.
And that's got to be hard. Like, you're starting from that.
Yes, and that is
More times than
normal
not, I would assume.
Yes, exactly.
Or you may disagree.
No, I don't. This one point, you are correct. On this one time. No, that's very true. And I think what I end up getting out of that, what I end up finding is that first, I don't have to race into anything. I build my shoots to have time for things, for them to slowly acclimate and warm up. I mean, the last thing I'm going to do in a situation like that is, no, put her down, look at me,
Go.
Click. I mean, that's craziness. So I don't do that because there's really no point to it. And I'll slowly warm up, and oftentimes I'll let the child, in this case let her take an assessment of the situation and become really best friends with mom.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing, and I'm completely ignoring her. And have you already done any dog training?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so, and this is no insult to either dogs or children, but they're a lot alike. And so our puppy, we did this whole kind of dog training where for 3 intense weeks, it was a lot of things. And one of the major ways that you get a dog to listen to you is you ignore them. You completely ignore them, you turn your back to them, you cross your arms.
Really?
And the biggest gift you can give them is your attention. And what you end up finding is they look for you more and they try to calm down. They want to do what you want. And it's very interesting. It's not unlike the bar scene, right? Okay, so with the toddlers, I'm not patently ignoring them, but I'm certainly not rushing to get their attention. If I were to like immediately say, look at me, I want to talk to you, I want to be your friend, I want to be your buddy, it's A, off-putting, but B, you are already telling them exactly what you want, and their job is to not give you what you want right away because they, you know what I mean? They're finding they want me too much.
Yeah.
So if you hold back and you kind of ignore them and slowly notice them and say, oh, I like your hair or something, and then you just keep going, they're a lot more interested, like a dog.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah.
And so, it almost sounds like you would engage the parents, maybe if there's another sibling or whatever, but
Yeah.
you'd engage them and almost make it seem like the shoot's going to go on.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome to be part of it if you want.
So pretend this is your toddler. And and I'm talking to you, and your toddler's like face down, or most likely standing behind you with her face in your bottom, like holding onto legs, like they do, right? So you've got your
That's
toddler.
the way
here.
I hold kids.
Okay, let's pretend you're like a really soft and loving parent. All right, so you're like that, and I'm talking to you, and you might actually stop me and say, "Is this going to be a problem?" Let's role play. Do that. Say, is this going to be a problem that my child's got her face in my armpit?
It's
and
going
won't
to be
look
a
up?
problem that my kid won't let go of me. It's a Klingon.
Oh, we're not even going to think about it. Everything's going to be amazing because all I'm talking to is you. We're not even going to worry about this
Really?
because when we keep doing this, someone's
is
going to
okay?
come around. Yeah, someone's going to come around. We're not even going to think about it.
Right.
Anyway, so tell me about that.
The kid's head just fell off.
That is bad parenting.
All right, that's a great tip, though.
Yeah.
That's a real.
Yeah.
That's the price of the
Try
show
less.
right there.
Try less.
Try less. All right. So, what class for Kelby training did you most like to do, and what class has inspired you? I should have let you read that one and think about it for a second, because now you're on the
What
spot.
class that I did that I most liked to do?
Yeah, what class that you did you most like to do? And
Well, that's like saying which of my kids are my favorite. You can't do that. I liked all the different things for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I really did. Like the beach photography was fun. I like doing that. I like the wildness of it. I like the fact that you're up against all the elements and you've got to problem solve. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
For the harsh one, I think that's actually just fun. It makes it more interesting.
And I can't wait. I really want to see that
Yeah.
part, because I think everybody falls into that category of you're not going to get the time of day that you want all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you always try to do that.
Yeah.
But, like I said with the harsh lighting situation, I want the shoot to start at 7:15. That's what I want to do for early morning so I can get that really lovely light. The client is late. The tantrum, it overslept, so-and-so didn't get there, they ran out of gas, they showed up and forgot clothing.
Right.
All that stuff happens, or they have to feed the baby and it's taking way longer than they thought, So suddenly now it's 8:30 and you're like, oh crap, this is like the worst lighting ever. What do you do?
Yeah.
And so that's what that's about. So that would be one of the things I loved about that. When I did photographic, our Modern Family one, I love about that we took an everyday family. We didn't try to find, models. We didn't try to find
Yeah, we didn't
training
go to an
practice
agency.
children. No, the whole point, every single model I think I've shot with Kelby training has been just regular human beings, you know, and that is the point, because that is who I'm photographing. So I like that we had an everyday family who I'd never photographed before, I'd never met before, that just rolled in and like, I don't know what to do. Okay, you know, and so I like how that turned out. With our kids, our contemporary children, it was exactly the personality kind of stuff that you run into. This child won't talk. He won't look at you and he won't speak to you.
Yeah.
Like, what do? You know, we were able to show that very real time. This child won't listen to you. The one won't talk and the other won't listen. She's going to go wherever she wants to go, and she's going to have a meltdown. And if you try to brush her hair, she's going to cry.
Is that
What
the
do you
little one
do?
that was running away from the front door?
Yes.
With the light. Oh
Yes.
God, I love
Yes.
that shot too. I wish we
Yeah.
could bring it up, but it's I love that photo. You'd never guess from looking at that photo.
Right. No, you wouldn't
that
guess
was-
what you're up against, and that's why the video is so helpful. And then the other day we did with our little toddler. She was hot and cold. You know, and that is so normal. That is exactly what you're going to get. So you've got to figure out how to keep her interest and peak it and get the moment you want.
Yeah.
And we got to show that a bunch. So I love that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. I know I saw something about post-processing on there too. It was like right before the break. Are those gone? All right, because there was a couple of good questions on there, and they got knocked down there, I think. All right, let's see. What do you do with the overly bossy mom at the senior picture shoot? How do you ask them not to be there?
Okay, so I don't actually do a lot of senior portraits. That being said, I've actually done a couple this year, and that's a high ratio for me. And what I found was the first one, we'd actually spoke ahead of time, and I talked about the fact that like it can go much better if they can kind of feel free and on their own, and it was not a problem at all.
Yeah.
With the second one, she actually worked the whole time, and so she didn't want to go there.
Really?
So, but in general, you know, I think the same mentality is true for this, or as it is for a lot of other shoots, which is to get to the root of where the subject will be most comfortable and ask them directly, especially on a senior shoot. And if they tell you they'd be a lot more comfortable if they're just on their own, then I would have an extraordinarily candid conversation with the parents. And that, I think a lot of times people make up in their head how much harder that can be. Well, what if they, or if I, what if? The whole point here is they hired you to do the shoot. So they want the shoot.
Yeah.
They know how you get your work. If you tell them the way I get my work is I isolate the subject and I have them feel a lot more comfortable with just me. This is how I want to do my work. If you want this end result, this is how I do it. If you explain it, I say not to be rational with kids. I like to be rational with clients. If I say, if you explain it just that way, it's got nothing that's personal or insulting or
them.
nothing. It's just, this is my process and this is how I get what you want. That's exactly what I would do.
Cool. And so I'm just thinking family functions that I've seen this happen. But what do you do if, so mom, dad, kids show up for a family shoot, and then sometimes they bring grandma along, or grandma and grandpa comes along too.
Yeah.
And so, you know, mom and dad are there with the kids, and then grandma gets behind you, or not gets behind you, but is 10 feet over
She
there.
jumps on your back.
Yeah, is 10 feet over, is over there.
Okay.
And she's like, over here, come on, little Jimmy, look over here.
Yeah.
But you're standing over there. Does that happen?
We just had that
to you a
yesterday,
lot?
just the other day when we were photographing. It happens very frequently, and I think the reason it happens is because I didn't do my job prepping people accordingly.
Because I think they think they're doing the right thing.
Of course, yeah, exactly. And so what I'll say is one of two things. One, I'll either say, I think there's just a lot of people trying to get little buddy's attention. Let me try first, and if it's not working out, I'm going to totally go to you next. Just that. Or B, if grandma's doing a great job getting buddy's attention, I don't have to compete. I'll just say, do me a favor and come right next to my lens. We're gonna get really close. I just brushed my teeth. Don't worry, you know. And I'll do that. I'll get extraordinarily close, and I'll go ahead and ride off the benefit. It's like when you're riding your bike, and you get the draft. I'll draft off their energy because it's working.
Yeah, it's doing what it needs to.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I see break time up there. It's a question from break time. So guys, we're gonna take a very quick break. When we come back, we still got
good questions.
They are really good questions coming in. I still want, like, you got like 5 posing tips for us too, unless you gave them to us already.
No,
but
I got posing tips. I've got giveaways. You've got giveaways.
giveaways. Yeah. You're gonna give away a discount on?
Yeah. I'll give one of all of them away too if you want.
What?
Of the posing playbook.
Posing playbook.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So all that when we come back from our break.
everybody, RC here. Welcome to Exposing HDR here on Kelby Training. Now, the best place for you to do all of this stuff is going to be in this room. He's back! Go away! Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go!
We are back live on the grid with Tamara Lackey. You got anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, my family. I'm down here in Florida and they're up in North Carolina.
Are they watching, you think?
I don't know, but if they're not and I give them a shout out, they're going to feel terrible.
Oh, no.
Hi,
All right,
Steve,
so don't
Sophie,
say
Caleb, Annalisa.
All right, so where were we? We were somewhere.
Somewhere really important.
You want to go back to questions?
Sure, wherever you lead.
All right.
Oh, we were going to give out the codes.
All right, let's give out some codes. You
All
got
right.
some stuff here. So you have, what do you have?
I have $20 off codes that are just specific to this Kelby experience.
Aw,
Yes.
that was nice.
Yes, so I have $20 off the Inside Contemporary Children's Photography, which is a DVD thing. I have $20 off the Posing Playbook, which is an on-the-go guide, like a mobile app that you can throw on your phone and get a lot of ideas. It's meant to be read as a book. It's very long. It's like 90 pages. It's meant to be read as a book and then referred to very quickly in terms of posing ideas, and then lighting and metering and anything that you need to get over. It's actually very helpful, and I use it at all my shoots. You can use the code, if you go to tamaralackey.com and click on photography products, Kelby 2013 TL, and then $10 off the Capturing Life Better gift box set. That is the whole media kit series for everyday shooters who want to get better with the basics.
Really?
So it's a book, DVD combo with little quick tips, and also there's an iPhone app there as well.
Awesome. I've seen both the contemporary photography one and
Yes.
the posing playbook, and they're excellent too.
Thank you very much. And we don't
I've
have
read them both.
Did you really? Wow.
I swear I did.
I believe you. And I didn't bring Envisioning Family. I don't have that, but that's my book with Peach Pit. That's also available on my website as well. It's all about families.
So when do you sleep?
All the time. I'm asleep right now.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Let's go back to our questions. This one's from Pack0526.
I feel very close to Pack
I know,
0526.
Tamara, what is your workflow? Raw, then Lightroom, then Photoshop, then something else? Maybe?
That's good.
So what is your workflow? Because it's...
My workflow has shifted in the last couple months for the first time ever.
No.
So for the longest time,
I'm dying to hear it.
I know, right? Hold on. Here it
I
comes.
was just making...
For the longest time, I could not let go of all of the post-processing, but I got to the point where I was losing really great work because I could not ever fit it in. So I finally started working. I talked to about 4 different post-processing places and people that I could hire or freelance and this and that. And I every time I thought about outsourcing my editing work, I got totally fearful, and I thought they'll never do it as well as I. All the things that we think about ourselves.
And in fairness too, because I think I think a lot of photographers go through that. I would hate to see, because I've always liked your post processing style.
Yes.
I followed your work for many years, and I always liked your style of post processing. So I assume your clients did too, and you didn't want to see that go away. That's
Exactly.
important.
And that was one of my biggest things. Is I honestly believe the finishing of the work is as much of the artistry as the actual shooting. I think that they go hand in hand, and everything you turn around is finished. So in a very clean, simple style, but a style nonetheless. So what I ended up doing is I hooked up with Photo Fafa. Do you know them?
I haven't, no.
They're out in California. And I made a deal with them that if I gave them all the ways I do it exactly, like my look and my feel, and I'm gonna keep my shots in this range from an exposure perspective, and so I'm not gonna have any extremes that I need you to fix. Everything's gonna be shot, cleanly and well from an exposure perspective. This is how I like my color images, and I created an action that was a combination of the things I do anyway on my own in Photoshop, and then just subgroup pieces and parts of other actions that I love. I put that together for color files, for black and whites. I shipped it all off to them, and I said, please don't, black market this. And then I still cull my images. I'll pull the images from the shoot that I want. So I'll shoot about 300 images on a regular portrait shoot, and I'll deliver about 60.
Okay.
Ish. And then so I'll, by no means capped at anything. And then I'll send the 60 images I've selected to them. They send back to me everything, run through the process of how I like my color in black and whites and with a soft retouch, like a very natural looking retouch when necessary. And then I take that and I do the final cropping in Lightroom. So the way the process works is
I've heard of this program.
Have you heard of Lightroom?
A couple times.
You might want to try it out. I think you might be really,
If only there was
good
a place to learn it.
I think you'd be shockingly talented at it, to be honest. So I open up my images in Bridge. I cull everything. They get FTP'd to Photo Fafa. In fact, my studio manager actually does the back and forth. We did that during our business course today for Kelby training.
Okay.
I talked specifically about how to parse out outsourcing so you don't feel like you've lost control. So they then send everything back to me on FTP. I download it. I pull it into Lightroom. I just immediately import it into Lightroom. I select which color of black and whites I want, and then do all that kind of custom cropping, which, as you know, has a big effect on the work. It can have a huge effect when you're shooting with the Nikon D800 and you've got 77 meg files, and you can cut 1/3 of it out and still have a gorgeous print. I do quite a bit of that because I'll shoot a little wildly and then I'll make it perfect later in terms of some of the shots that I couldn't nail. And then I'll pop it through probably one more time, glance at it to see if there's any little adjustments I want to make in Photoshop, and then I deliver it.
So when, let's say after a photo shoot, you shot 300 pictures, and then you culled through, you have your 60 that you like. So you said you send them over. So by this point, the family hasn't seen anything?
Nothing.
Okay. So their first, and then the first time you deliver something to them would be the 60 photos up on the proof website of some sort, I assume.
Yeah, so the 60 photographs we upload to Animoto. We create an Animoto, and that's important to me because I want their first feeling that they have is it's already a slideshow. It's already this lovely little video with music, and it's timed. It's about 3 minutes.
And it's not just a proof.
No. I want them to have an experience the first time they open it.
That's a great tip, too.
Yeah. So they have, and that's like Animoto.com. I think if you go to Animoto, I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's Animoto/go/Tamara, or it's Animoto.com/Tamara.
Okay.
Somebody will be able to tell me. It's $50 off their service. But if you go there and you can basically say, they have an incredible amount of templates. I actually created one with them called Simplicity. No, Innocence.
So you're disagreeing with yourself now.
I know, you're wrong. Innocence, which is just clean. It's just, here's the image in a nice matted kind of pretty, and here's the next image, and that's it. And so that's what they get. And then, so when they come in and sit down with me in the studio, they've already had a short, brief preview, and then we look through everything together.
I like that. I think we've all been victim to the proof gallery that you get on the web.
That is not how I want them to see it.
And what do? So it's a proof gallery. It's all these little thumbnails. Number one, the thumbnails are never uniform. They're not all square or whatever, which just looks bad.
Right.
But the worst thing is you get to that proof gallery and page 1 of 62.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go through 62 pages of this.
And Animoto image protects everything, so they can't pull them. They can't. I mean, technically anybody anywhere can do a screenshot.
But that was going to be my next question: is what size do you give everyone? I mean,
well, it already automatically resizes it. So every image.
It's on the.
And
so the best they would do is be able to do, if they did a screen capture.
Yep.
A screen size.
Their PNG file. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. I like that. All right. Let's see. Question for Tamara. Do you ever shoot on a tripod on family shoots?
Hardly ever to never. The only time I would do that is if I have a large group and I'm in an interior or some sort of low light situation. And even when I do it that way, I do it like kind of grumbly. I like to be off tripod. Yeah.
If you shoot, I think we kind of answered this. If you shoot 400 to 500 images in a session, how many would you present to the client, and would you retouch all, or would you show crop exposure adjustments only?
So it's 100%. Those 60 images, by the time they see it on that Animoto slideshow, it's all finished. It's all finished from a proof perspective. Once we sit down and the whole order is put together, then I do a print finishing. Like, okay, this is gonna be a 30 by 40 canvas. I want it to look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. What do you do with a kid who refuses to put a smile or a happy face?
Again, in about every session, that's part of what you get. That's the beauty of working with children.
Yeah.
Most children are going to give you everything. I feel it. You're going to see it. Like, that's the way it goes. So I get that a lot. And in fact, the course we just did, I had a child who, she didn't refuse to give me a smiley face, but she was so interested in the sand and the water and this and that, she refused to look in my direction. So what you do then is you use those extra tools I talked about, which is like you squeak like a dolphin, or you roll around in the sand, or you splash them, or something that alerts their attention, and you're going to get it for a hair of time. So you need to be set and ready and have a shutter speed and go.
Yeah, and that's where all that comes in.
Yeah, and it looks like this thoughtful, beautiful image where the subject was like this, but it was like that.
If you could have seen the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
All right.
Which you can on Kelby Training.
There you go. All right, quick.
Yeah.
5 posing tips. Now, go.
Specific to?
I don't care.
Anything in the whole world?
Dogs.
Make lots of noises.
Oh, is that your dolphin sound?
No, I think that's something else. I don't know. They all meld. Like, they're all different voices. Like, when you have to do it for a very long amount of time, you pass out.
Do it again. That was good. You know this is live. You can't take that back.
I wouldn't want to. I'm so proud of it.
Posing for...
Look at that. Eyes are watering and everything.
Posing for kids and families.
You can't smoke and shoot at the same time. You need all your breath.
All right, so no smoking.
All right, so for families, one of the biggest things I would say, especially depending on the size of the family, is if you want to get that look where they're really your subject, which is one. You have one subject. It just happens to be a group. When you want that subject to really pop, and you want that same sort of feel that you get with, say, a single subject at a 1:8. Where you step back and everything's just beautifully out of focus behind them, and they're really just modeled gorgeously. If you want to get that same sort of thing with a group, it is possible. I would suggest that you strongly pay attention to background and foreground as it relates to where your subject is. So every time you have an opportunity to pull a group of 5 really far off a backdrop, and then you back up and shoot with a long lens, the farther back you are, the more you can have a shallower depth of field, and the more you can expose just them because they're so far from a backdrop that they're going to pop nice, sharp, clear, and you can still have that gorgeous bouquet behind them.
Bokeh.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
It's a religious debate. So basically, pull them off of their background.
Constantly.
Off of their
Constantly.
background.
I see that a lot. People put like a bunch of people against a fence. And that's cool for some shots. Like I certainly have kids leaning against walls and groups leaning on the stairs or something. But if what you're going for is something that pops and looks different, looks very pro, pull them away.
And I think you see that a lot too, is what people find a cool looking tree and what do? Hey, go stand in front of the tree.
Yeah, lean against, get right in that bark.
Yeah.
So one of the things I just did the other day, I had a baby with a family, and we were in a tight room. We were trying to show how if you do lifestyle photography with babies, you're not always going into like the perfect model home. You've got to work with what's there. And we're in this small, tight room that's pretty cramped, and the bed is kind of jammed up against the wall. And so I had the whole family come. I specifically said, okay, now everybody move off the wall, get right on the edge of the bed. Then I backed up. And I zoomed in, and just that extra 5 feet gave me a much better look. Yeah, versus them all leaning up against the wall, and I have a whole different feel. So those are 2 different feels, just 5 feet apart.
Do you have a go-to lens?
I love, for portraits, the 85-1.4.
Yeah.
Love it. I also really am a big fan of the 105, the micro 105 Nikon, because I like to be able to get really close to my subjects and interact with them, and I can get a great full frame of the face of a child. But the micro lens, macro, but it's technically called micro, allows you to shoot extraordinarily close and doesn't cut off your focus, versus most portrait lenses, you can only go so far before it'll stop your ability to focus. Yeah. So I like that with the 105 and the 35-1.4. My goodness, I use that on every shoot.
Yeah.
I love that baby.
So what do you do? Like, what do you do? You got the 85-1.4 out, and you have a family of 4. So mom, dad, 2 kids in front of them, or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a problem where like, you'll focus on the eyes of the kids and the parents are out of focus, or do you not shoot it at 1.4? Do you shoot it?
No, I can shoot that like at a 1.4 or 1.8. But what I have to do is be aware of my focal plane. So what that means is if I have a family of 4 and there's 2 children in front and 2 parents behind, and I'm shooting pretty close with a 1.4, of course I'm going to get either the foreground or the background, either the parents or the kids out of focus. That's just how optics work.
Yeah.
But if I say, okay, I want to shoot this at a 1.4, I want to shoot this at a 1.8, if I back up, the more I back up, the more that field of focus extends. And I'm getting, now, instead of being right here, it's going like this. So I can keep my aperture and get them more all in focus. But I also have to pay attention to how they are stacked up in relation to each other. So if there's 2 in front and 2 behind and they're not very close, it's basically, the way I like to explain this is imagine a glass wall right here. Mm-hmm. And if there could be 8 people, but I want all their noses to be on the glass, then it doesn't matter. I could stack 40 people, but if they're all kind of in a similar range and I'm stepped back enough, I can get them at a very shallow depth of field. But as soon as you go back here and you're here, you're out of focus or they're out of focus, one or the other. It doesn't work otherwise unless I'm shooting an f/22, right? And I've got a lot of light for that. So I'm conscious of keeping them on the same focal plane and getting enough distance so that I can shoot shallow.
And that's a good way if you ever had to explain it to them.
Yeah, and I do.
Because you can't whip out, okay, guys, you got to be on the same focal plane. Yeah. Because my aperture is, I mean, you can't do that. But to say, okay, guys, do me a favor. Because of this, just imagine that there's a glass wall in front of you, and I want all your noses on the wall.
Right, and then what you'll get is this. Like no, not look like there's a yeah, exactly.
And then I would think also with the D800, you can step back with that 85 1.4, shoot it a little wider, but then you can crop in.
Exactly.
You almost get the best of both worlds.
Exactly, which is why I like that massive megapixel count.
Yeah, I've heard too many times that the D800 is a camera for landscape and fine art and things like that.
Oh, it's so untrue.
And it is such a good portrait.
It's a fantastic portrait. Yeah.
And people say, well, no, it shows too much imperfection. Good shooting technique, and you'll still get really sharp photos with it. 8
of them in. I just used that. I've never done that before.
That was good,
Did that sound natural?
No.
No, I didn't think so either. But you're right.
What's
to
up,
me,
bro?
What up, broski? But from my perspective, I think the D800 is an excellent portrait lens. And the other thing that's fabulous about it is it's fast and it's light. And I do a lot of shooting away from the face and running with the kids. And so the D800 lets me, D800 and one of the lighter lenses like the 35 1.4, I can go a lot of places versus the 7200 D4 setup, which gives me great speed and really fast responsiveness. But I can't necessarily run and race with that.
Yeah. And I used to have a battery grip on my D800. I took it off. It's like it's a nice small compact camera.
That battery lasts forever.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Okay, we're just about up on time here. There's one more question.
What? How did that happen to us?
I don't know. You talk too much.
You can hear him, right? He knows we can hear him. Okay.
Let's see here. So here, this is a good question actually to finish up on too.
Okay.
Because I was interested. How much lighting equipment do you take on an outdoor photo shoot?
Extraordinarily minimal. I'm a huge fan of simple lighting. Huge fan of simple lighting. And that doesn't equate to, I don't know lighting. I do know lighting.
Oh, yeah. No, I've seen you teach lighting.
Thank you.
You know your lighting. So that's not a problem.
But I say that teasingly because I think sometimes people feel that the more lighting gear you have, the better you are at it. And I think that once you figure it out, you try to figure out how to pare it down and free yourself up. And that's what I like to do, specifically for the style of shooting I do. I should be very specific. The style of shooting I like to do is very free, very high energy, lots of movement. I can't keep resetting up lighting the way I want to do it. So on a shoot, I will have typically 3 lighting products with me. The reflector, and it's usually 2 of them. On every single shoot I do. One used as a fill, one often as a flag if necessary.
Gray or silver or gold? Or white?
One that is kind of a cream on one side and a silver on the other. And typically, the other one will be the gold, silver, the zip off, the gold, the white, and the black.
Okay.
But I have like dozen reflectors. I really do. I have a fetish. So the reflector will be the first and foremost.
Tweet that, please.
The second one is the speed light. The SB910. So the speed light is fantastic, nearly always using it in TTL mode. Bouncing sometimes against a lower ceiling, sometimes bouncing to the sky, which just means I'm getting a soft pop of it.
So you're saying like, I'm sitting there taking a picture of you, outside, so it's not going to bounce off anything.
There's no bounce.
You have it facing up, so it's not really facing towards you, but just that little
bit of a fall off that I want.
That little spark.
Yeah. I mean, and I can also just distance myself and shift it up, and the flash is smart enough to figure that out just in that mode.
Yeah.
But I often think that if someone's driving by the park and sees me, they're like, "What an idiot! There's no ceiling. Doesn't she know that?" And then number 3 is some sort of constant video light source. So whether it is a dimmable light source that I have, a torch light or the ice light or the Westcott spider lights, if I can, have them handheld. I think I showed that in my children's course, exactly how I can bring a handheld spider light off the C-stand and bring it into a client's home and use it quite easily. But they're used in the order of need. So reflector all the time, flash if I need it.
1 or 2 reflectors all the time.
I'm always having to, but most of the time I'm probably using 1 3/4.
How do you get like we've all seen that reflector photo where like the people are too bright or and almost they can't see. Like, so what do you do?
Well, that silver and cream side, that's there for a reason. Most of the time I'm on the cream or the light white, unless I'm in a dim home and we're reflecting off dim light, and then it's the silver side. But the silver side outside in regular daylight is normally pretty harsh. Yeah. Especially if it's not during.
Yeah, it looks like people have sunlight, like a light on them.
Exactly, and the distance the reflector to the subject has a big impact too. Like a big impact. And just little things, like someone could look at you and they're not squinting, but you could tell there's a slight strain, and it kills the natural feel of the expression, so you have to be aware of that too.
Good stuff. And you put the flash, you have the flash on the camera, right?
Yes,
if you're
correct,
using the flash,
correct.
You're not using
Nearly always, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, all right. We're, let's see, we discount code needed again. Discount code for your...
How good is Meredith at just like flying it back up because I don't have it memorized?
Let's hope.
Oh, wow, she's that good. Nice job. For the Inside Contemporary Children's Photography and the Posing Playbook for kids who don't do posing, that posing playbook I use on every shoot I do. That is Kelby 2013 TL. And then the Capturing Life Better gift box set, which actually does make an amazing gift. If you know anybody who likes photography but doesn't want to go get a ton of gear and wants to just get really good at what they're using, right down to like an iPhone, this is basically a clean, fun, edutaining way of going over the basics that shows it in a lot of different scenarios. And that's Kelby 2013 CLB.
Awesome. And seriously, guys, I know we joke around here a lot, but if you get a chance to take one of Tamara's classes, whether it's any of the things that she just mentioned, or you get to see her live out there, you're a truly talented and gifted photographer and teacher.
Thank you.
I think that's a really cool combination. So.
Thank you.
But anyway, all right. People can find more about you over on
TamaraLackey.com.
It could be that website that we see up there.
Yeah, that one.
And you have a blog on there too, don't you?
Yep, if you click on blog, that's kind of the latest stuff I'm working on a lot of the times, or the things I'm kind of interested in sharing.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
Fist bump.
Ooh, I went backwards on that one.
All right, guys, thank you for watching, and thanks to all our sponsors for sponsoring the show. We will see you back here again. Hold on a second. This just in. Contest. And we forgot the contest last time. We talked about the contest prizes, and we never told them how to enter the contest. All right, so contest. We have the how to get people to do stuff and Scott's Crush the Composition DVD here. Just go to kelbytv.com/contest, pick the grid, and if you can't figure out what to do at the rest of that point, then you don't deserve to win it. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week.